So this is a story that you guys are absolutely going to enjoy. It's actually pretty interesting. So basically what's going on is there's been this weird development with Trump's legal team. A couple weeks ago, Trump claimed that Sidney Powell, who is a lunatic and is a, I guess, attorney, was part of his legal team. Now, she said that the Dominion voting systems were funded by Venezuela or the dead Hugo Chavez, and it's communist-backed money, and it has the algorithm that flipped the votes. She looks like she barely knows how to use Facebook, not really sure how she knows what an algorithm is or anything about Dominion voting systems or anything like that. A bunch of idiots fell for it, like the morons they are. But she started to actually claim that the Dominion voting systems flipped votes in favor of Republican candidates that should not have won. So I think one of the people she said shouldn't have won was Kelly Loeffler, I believe it was, and that one of the other Republicans should have won the race. And so she started getting so crazy, she was basically splitting the Republican Party apart, right? And that was when they decided, okay, we have to shell her out of here. We have to get her out of this legal team. So what's really interesting is going on right now is those lawyers who are no longer part of the Trump legal team but are still MAGA lawyers, essentially, they're telling people not to vote. That's what they're doing. Now, what do we have coming up? We've got 2 Georgia runoffs coming up, right? Really important Senate races. So Newt Gingrich went after Lin Wood and Sidney Powell, who are both these MAGA lawyers. He called them totally destructive. It says, former Speaker Newt Gingrich on Thursday said pro-Trump attorneys Lin Wood and Sidney Powell are, quote, totally destructive after they reportedly urged Georgia voters not to cast ballots in the pivotal Senate runoff elections in January. At an event on Wednesday, the attorneys reportedly told Georgians not to vote until their votes are, quote, secure. Wood specifically told people not to back GOP Senators Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue until they speak out on President Trump's behalf. So he sent out a tweet on Twitter that says, Lin Wood and Sidney Powell are totally destructive. Every Georgia conservative who cares about America must vote in the runoff. Their don't vote strategy will cripple America. So this is absolutely hilarious because I've never seen this go the other way, right? When it comes to the left, we see this kind of stuff all the time. Don't vote so that the person will basically have to come to the table or whatever. They'll have to, give you something to vote for. This is a very common thing you see on the left. I don't think I've ever seen this on the right before. And so this really can hurt their campaign for the 2 Georgia runoffs, because that vote that won't vote, that MAGA vote, could be a swing vote, right? These are deadlocked races. Now, one of the polls has Warnock up by 7 points. So Warnock might win. I don't know if Ossoff is going to win, but what might help Ossoff win is if these MAGA voters don't come out to vote. It's really interesting about the comment about waiting until, Loeffler and Perdue back President Trump on his behalf. They're kind of, really being full devout Trumpers already, so I'm not really sure what else he wants them to do. But what's hilarious is if you actually go to his tweet, right, I think it has 16,000 response. I think it has more responses than favorites, it appears. It appears to have 17,000 replies. So let's just read some of these comments from the MAGAs. It says, nope, the GOP and the current candidates need to deal with November 3rd first. Demand for a special session of GA legislature. They refuse to do that. This is their fault. I agree with Lynn and Sidney. No one is going to vote in another rigged election until you fix the problem. Says, I'm offended that this rhino, Newt Gingrich, would attack Dear Leader's handpicked lawyers until Dear Leader announces them. Every true Republican should follow the advice of these messengers. As if they were messengers of God, this would be an occult is all about. This is obviously a meme comment. Says, I think you have taken them out of context. They're imploring Georgia to ensure a legal voting process. I don't think it's I-N. I think it's E-N is ensure. So I don't think Trumpers are really able to spell either. Let's see here. It says, Newt is deep state, is what this one says. Newt is just trying to protect the swamp. Republicans in Georgia need to boycott the election. That will send a message. How does voting help us, the American people? I think their main point is being missed by most of the media. They said for Kemp to call a special session so that the voting process is fixed before the runoff. Otherwise, Georgia will have the same voting fraud issues as November 3rd and same mess. Look at their entire statement. I disagree, Newt. How can you trust the vote will be accurate if we don't trust the machines in the process? Let's see. That's another one. It says, don't fall for his lies. The voting machines are obviously controlled by Venezuela and North Korea. Don't participate in the sham. Don't participate in the fraud. Patriots will stay home on January 5th. Now, honestly, I'm feeling like some of these people who are making these comments might be trolling. Some of them might actually be liberals. This one says, lies. Boycott is the only option for true Trump conservatives. It's hard to tell which ones of these are really like actual MAGA pages or not, because obviously, they want to make it seem like a lot of people are going to boycott because that might lead to a lot of people boycotting. This one says they don't want the citizens of Georgia to vote on Dominion machines. They told those citizens to demand a fair election. As we should all demand fair elections, you are taking this out of context. Why is my silly citizen ass having to tell you this, Newt Gingrich? This one I can tell you is obviously a troll. Super obvious. Loeffler and Perdue are totally destructive. Every Georgia conservative who cares about America must demand they earn our votes. Their do and say nothing strategy will cripple America. So this is pretty much, it says, with all due respect, Mr. Gingrich, you're saying this is totally obstructive. The wrong are you not aware of what a massively fraudulent election just took place in Georgia? Isn't the definition of insanity to do things over and over again expecting a different result? Interesting question. Interesting argument there. So there's pretty much a bunch of people fighting here, and then there's some liberals, I think, who are faking it. I think there's going to be some liberals who are faking it to try to make other, Trump voters think that Trump voters are not voting so that they will take part in not voting. But this really could help Ossoff win. I think at this point, unless the poll that I've seen is really wrong, the election is pretty soon. I don't think the runoff is in very long. So, the poll that I saw showed that Warnock was up 7 on Loeffler, but Ossoff was either tied or up like 2, but Ossoff really performed pretty poorly in his race, especially given the fact that Biden won Georgia. So there is a realistic possibility that actually Warnock will win, but Ossoff will lose. But if there is something that's going to, potentially catapult Ossoff into actually winning, that would actually be the MAGA vote sitting out. So this is actually an element that I didn't see coming. Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood, they do represent the MAGA cult, right? So if they're telling the MAGA cult not to vote in the Georgia runoff elections for Loeffler and Perdue, well, that probably, it may not have like a massive effect overall, but the effect could certainly swing the vote in favor of Ossoff. But it all depends on how turnout happens. But again, this is a cannibalism phase for the GOP. That we've already seen. We've already talked about Trumpers turning on Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson because they're not going in with the sham of voter fraud claims. Now you're kind of seeing it with Republican politicians who are claiming, who are basically going after Sidney Powell. Sidney Powell is like this hailed figure on the right wing now, and so there's a big battle going on over it. But it's interesting to see what's going to happen.